Hello children, so I have come again with the continuation of chapter number 2, that is reproduction in plants. Okay, so today I am planning to complete the chapter. Alright, I am planning to complete the chapter today. So we have already reached the types of pollination. Okay, that is self-pollination and cross-pollination. We have even discussed about the definition of self-pollination and cross-pollination. Alright, self-pollination we have finished everything about self-pollination. So today we will do the modes of cross-pollination on the basis of pollinating agents. Alright, definition of cross-pollination that I have told you last time is the transfer of pollen grains from anther of the plant, anther of one plant to the stigma of the flower of another plant of the same type. It's called cross-pollination that we have done. Now we'll do the modes of cross-pollination on the basis of pollinating agents. What are pollinating agents? You see, these plants are fixed to the soil. They are not able to move from one place to other place. That's why they have to depend upon the nature for the transfer of their pollen grains. So nature has given them some facilities, have given them the facilities to get their pollen grains transmitted by some agents. Okay? And these agents which transfer the pollen grains from anther to the stigma, are called pollinating agents. So basically there are three kinds of pollinating agents. They are insects. Okay, beside insects, even the animals, you can just rather include animals, which includes everything. That includes insects, that includes human beings. Sometimes human beings are also the ones, birds, that all come under this animal itself. So that let us say the cross-pollination by animals, but in this case, in your book, it is given, cross-pollination by insects that we discuss. Then, cross-pollination by wind. Okay, cross-pollination by wind. And the third one is cross-pollination by water. Alright, so these are the agents which transfer the pollen grains from anther to the stigma of the flower, which is called cross-pollination by the different agents. The modes of the cross-pollination on the basis of pollinating agents. And these different kinds of flowers, where the different kinds of agents are there for the transfer of pollen grains. Okay, flowers where the different agents are there for the transfer of pollen grains, have different properties. But the different properties for favoring those agents for the transfer of pollen grains. Okay, so let us now talk about each one of them one by one. First, talk about pollination by insects. Pollination by insects. That means cross-pollination by insects. So cross-pollination by insects. So those flowers which are pollinated by the insects have certain properties. Okay? So what are the properties of those flowers where the cross-pollination is done by insects? Let us say number one, flowers are large. Okay, flowers are large and petals are attractive. Okay, flowers are large and petals are attractive. The petals are very colorful because the flower has to, attract the pollinating agents, attract the insects. When the big flowers are there and have got the very good, attractive, colorful petals, these things can be seen by the insects from a far distance as well, so that they can see this from far distance and come and sit on it. Alright, so that is one of the properties of the flower where the cross pollination is done by insect. Number B, the flowers are scented. Flowers are scented. Flowers contain a kind of the fragrance. It is scented so that scent can be blown off by the wind and can reach the insect. So following which the insect come and sit on the flower and does the cross pollination. So the flower needs to be scented, or the flowers are scented where the cross pollination is done by insects. Third one is nectar bearing. Nectar bearing. So they produce nectar. The flowers which are cross pollinated by insects contain nectar. They produce nectar. So that when the insects come, sit on it, they will even collect the nectar from it. For the want of nectar they come, okay, so that the flowers need to be producing the nectar. Alright, then number D is, the pollen grains are sticky. 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 See here, when all these properties are there with the flowers, then what happens that insects come and sit on the flower. You see, the large flower, attractive petals will attract the insects. Then also scent is there. Then when the insects come and sit on the flowers, they will even get the nectar. So when they come and collect the nectar from the flowers, that time what happens that pollen grains get stuck to the abdomen, to the legs, to the wings of the insects. Then when that insects fly to another flower of the same time, there all the pollen grains are scattered, all the pollen grains are left there on the other flower, so that the cross pollination takes place. Okay, so examples, those flowers where this cross pollination by insects take place are marigold. Okay, in marigold this cross pollination by insects takes place. Then we find even in dahlia. Dahlia is a kind of flower where it can take place. Then even a flower called salvia. Okay, and so there are many flowers, but here among them few of these have been given out here. That is marigold, dahlia, salvia are those flowers where the pollination is done by the insects. Okay. Then now next is we have pollination by wind. Pollination by wind. Now there are a number of flowers where the pollination is done by, or the cross pollination is done by wind. Now how come these flowers are suitable for the cross pollination by wind? What are the properties? What are the properties they have so that in them the cross pollination is possible by wind? They also have got some properties which make them able to give their pollen grains from endophyll stigma by some agents, especially by the wind. So what are the properties? What are the properties which make them able to do so? They have got some properties out here. See, number one, here the properties they have got, the flowers are small and with dull color. Flowers are small. Flowers are small. Flowers are small. Flowers are small with dull color. With dull color. See, the flowers where the cross pollination is done by wind need not be the large enough, and no need to be the colorful also. Okay, unlike these flowers need not be colorful and also large, because they are carried away by the wind. Okay, so that the flowers need to be small and also with the dull color, no need to be attractive. All right. Then we have large anthers, and also they have got large anthers. The large anthers. Anthers are large anthers and protruding out. Large anthers protruding out of the flower. protruding out of the flower. So which means, see, the anthers are large and protruding out of the flower. Which means, suppose, see, this is the flower here. This is the flower here. The anthers, this anthers will come out of the flower. See, it comes out of the flower. This anther. It comes out of the flower, so that the pollen grains present in this anther can be blown up by the wind, because this anther is already out of the flower. If it is inside, it may not be blown up. The wind may not apply the pressure to this, so that the pollen grains may not be scattered. But here, since this flower is pollinated by the wind, nature has provided them the facility with the large anther protruding out, so that when wind hits it, the pollen grains present out here can be scattered. Okay, can be scattered, so that some of them can be going to the right place. Right place means to the stigma of the plant of the same type. Okay, that is it. Then pollen grains are light. Pollens are light. Pollens are light. Pollen grains which are produced out here are very light, so that they can be blown off by the wind. If the pollen grains are very weighty, okay, it is very weighty, what happens that pollen grains cannot be scattered, cannot be blown up by the wind. But what is there is that pollen grains are so light, so that they can be taken away by the wind. So that out of the thousands and thousands of pollen grains, some of them might be reaching the right place. Right place means, I told you, the stigma of the flower of the same type, so that the cross-pollination is possible. And the other one is that, fourth property of this one is that large amount of pollen grains. Pollen grains are produced in large amount. Okay, millions and millions of such powdery substances, which means the pollen grains are produced. Okay, so by any chance, suppose 90% of the pollen grains are just wasted, because it's been carried up by the wind. So wind doesn't know that it has to reach the right place. It doesn't know. So out of thousands, if 900, if out of 1,000, if 900 pollen grains are just wasted, at least 100 have the chance of reaching the right place, that means right stigma. Okay, so that way nature knows that the wind might not be reaching all the pollen grains to the right place, so that nature has given them the properties of producing the large amount of pollen grains. Okay, so that is the properties. So these are the four types of properties. The flowers where pollination by wind takes place do have. Alright? And examples. Which are the flowers or the plants where the pollination or the cross pollination by wind take place? One very much common example is maize. Okay? Common example is maize. There it takes place. Okay. Then comes your pine. Okay. Even in the pine, this pollination takes place by wind. Even palm, palm. So these are the flowers, or these are the plants where the pollination takes place by wind. Okay. So these are the two types of cross pollination on the basis of pollinating agents. Now the third type we have. Third type of pollination we have is cross pollination by water. Cross pollination by water. Example we can give Ballisneria. Okay, water hyacinth. So especially the very typical example for the cross pollination by water is Ballisneria. So there are some other plants also which are aquatic, like lotus. You see, Lotus is also an aquatic plant where actually the pollination was supposed to be taken by water, but it is not. Why? Because the lotus, grows on the surface of the water. So its flower is in the air. So that the pollination is done by water, air only, by wind only. But those aquatic plants which are already submerged in the water, suppose this is the water, okay? So this Vallisneria water plants outlet is that here male and female plants are grown separately. See here, suppose this is the Vallisneria which is growing out here. So the flowers are here. This is female flower, female flower. Then male is here. Male, see, this is male flower. Male flower. See, in this is what happens. This is male. This is female. Those flowers where cross-pollination is done by water. So they are usually in the waters, completely submerged in the water, and the plants are separate. Male and female plants are separate. See, like in the case of Vallisneria. See, this is the female flower. When the time comes, the plants bear the flowers here, which is on the surface of the water. This is the surface of the water. This is the surface of the water. The flower is here on the surface of the water, exactly on the surface of the water. And male flowers, the male plant bears the flower in the water itself, in the water itself. When the plant itself is submerged in the water, there itself the flower is produced out here. When the flower is matured, then this flower gets detached from here, it floats here. The flowers floats out here. It gets detached from the mother plant and it is just floating on the surface of the water. It just floats on the surface of the water as long as it doesn't meet it. So when it comes in contact with the female flower, then the pollination takes place from this flower to here. That is, pollination transfer from this flower to here. That is, it will be just floating on the surface till it meets the female flower here. Okay, so this is the pollination by water, which is very typically seen in the plant called Vallisneria. Besides this, these plants also have certain properties. These plants also have certain properties. What are the properties? Let us see. These plants also have the certain properties. For example, flowers are small. Okay, flowers are small and light. Flowers are small and light, so that they can be floated on the surface of the water. Okay, since it is small and light, it can be floated on the surface of the water. And pollen grains are produced in large quantity. Pollens are produced in large amount. Pollens are produced in large quantity. Alright? Then it has some other properties also, as I already told you, that male and female flowers are separate. Male and female flowers are separate. So, see, these are the pollen grains are produced in large quantity because there is every chance of the wastage of pollen grains. Okay, because water doesn't know that the pollen grains have to be taken from the male flower to the female flower, doesn't know. Okay, so by any chance, if the pollen grains come to the stigma of the female flower on the other side, the pollination is possible. Okay, that's why it has to depend upon the water, entirely water. So that nature has facilitated them with the property that it produces the large amount of pollen grains. Okay, so these are the properties of the flowers where the pollination or the cross-pollination takes place by water. Okay, so these are the three different kinds of pollination on the basis of the pollinating agents. Alright, now Let us talk about artificial. Beside this, artificial pollination is also there. Artificial pollination is also there. So these are the natural pollination, where the pollination is being done by the natural agents. Nature has created such agencies, okay, which all can collect the pollen grains from male flower to the female flower. This is what the nature has done. Besides that, even the human beings can do the artificial pollination. Okay, in the ancient time, you know what these people, those times and those days, those people who are involved in the in the horticulture, in the agriculture field, what they used to do is that they used to collect the anthers of the male flowers and used to simply sprinkle it on the female flowers. This is how they used to do it. This is how they used to do it that time, in the ancient time. Okay, but now also what people can do is that, suppose this is the female flower. I mean, this is the bisexual flower. Suppose where anther is there, and this is stigma is there. That means where this is male part, this is male part, and this female part. If so, this kind of flower is called bisexual flower, where both the sexes are there. So if the flower is like this, there is every chance of the self-pollination. Pollination takes place from here itself, which is called self-pollination. But if the self-pollination takes place that way, we know a lot of disadvantages. Let us not talk about this one because we have already done it. So at the present time, what they do is that in order to go for the cross-pollination, what people are nowadays doing is that they are removing this one. They are just removing it out. Okay, and covering the entire flower also for some time. Then afterwards, they used to bring the pollen grains from the desired variety of the plants, and they used to open it and they sprinkle those pollen grains out here, so that the cross pollination can take place. So this is called artificial pollination, where we interfere for our purpose, for our benefit, for our for our want. Okay, this is called artificial pollination. Now we'll do fertilization. So after pollination, what happens is that the union of male and female gametes take place then in the ovary. Okay, so that is called fertilization. Let's see how it happens. Say, suppose this is a female part. This is a female part. As you all know, here is this is ovary. Okay, the insides ovule. Okay, this is stigma. This is style. Alright, so as I put it down, suppose this is anther. This is anther. Okay, we have already discussed the transfer of pollen grains from here to here. Okay, pollen grains have been transferred here now. See. So transfer of pollen grains from here to here is called pollination, that we have finished. So after that, what happens? After that, what happens? You see. When the pollen grains are transferred from there to here, pollen grains out here, using the sugar produced by this stigma grows up and it will produce a tube. This is called pollen tube. It develops a tube which is called pollen tube. So this pollen tube will go down. It will go down here inside, and here it goes into the ovule of the ovary. It goes inside the ovary to find the female cell present in the ovule inside. Alright, so when here this male, the one which is coming from there, is pollen grain which contains male cell, male reproductive cell. It contains male reproductive cell. Okay? Going inside here finds the female reproductive cell. Female reproductive cell to produce zygote. It produces what? Zygote. Now see, when pollen is transferred from there to here, that will go down here, goes inside the ovary where it finds ovule and fertilizes the female cell inside. Okay, it fertilizes the female cell inside, female reproductive cell inside, which I am trying to show here. Male reproductive cell will fertilize the female reproductive cell inside the ovary, and a zygote is formed. What is formed? Zygote, not gygote. Okay, it is zygote, remember. Zygote. So this zygote is formed. Once the zygote is formed, now the new life is taking place there inside. When this union of male and female gamete, union of male reproductive cell and female reproductive cell to make a zygote is called fertilization. When it comes from there to here, goes inside and finds the female reproductive cell and fertilizes it, or unites with it, is called fertilization. So by fertilization, a zygote is formed. Okay, then what happens? Slowly it grows and grows and grows. Then all this part maybe will get maybe fallen off, and these portions, this portion which is called ovary, this entire ovary will develop into a fruit. Now see, this ovary after the fertilization, develops into a fruit. This ovary, all right, and the ovule which is inside, develops into a seed. It develops into a seed. Now see, remember, that's very important. Ovary after the fertilization develops into a fruit, and ovule after the fertilization develops into a seed. You know that there are many fruits which contain many seeds in it. If they produce many seeds, means they have many ovules inside. So for fertilizing them, they require many pollen grains. So that way, after the fertilizer, whatever number of ovules are fertilized, the same number of seeds will be formed. Like in papaya, it contains thousands of seeds in it. Means the flower of papaya had contained number of ovules there, which were all fertilized and produced that many seeds in it. But you see, like in mango, there is only one seed, which means during the time when it was a flower, that time it had only one ovule. So when that one ovule was fertilized by the male reproductive cell, that was developed into one seed. Okay, so this is how it happens. Ovary develops into fruit, ovule develops into seed after the fertilization. Okay, so in shortcut I am saying, because once you go to the higher class 9 and 10, so there you talk more about it, because in your syllabus is given this much only. Alright, so then, okay, so this is how the fruit and the seeds are formed. Don't forget that we are in the reproduction in plants. So this seed now, when is sown, and germinated, then a new plant is formed, which is called a sexual reproduction, which I have discussed before also. Okay, now we'll talk about the fruit. Okay, fruit. What is fruit now? By this, what I have told you just now, you understand that fruit is a ripened ovary. Fruit is a ripened ovary. It is a ripened ovary. Fruit is a ripened ovary. When ovary, this after the fertilization, this ovary ripens. So that ripened ovary is called fruit. That's called what? Fruit. Okay, so fruits are of different types. We know some fruits are fleshy fruits, some are dry. So we know some fruits are dry fruits, some are dry fruits. Okay, some are fleshy fruits, some are fleshy fruits. Some fruits are dry, like you see, maize fruit is dry fruit. Your gram, your peas, these all come under the dry fruit. Okay, whose wall of ovary is dry. Wall of ovary is not juicy, so they are dry fruits. And some fruits whose ovarian wall is very juicy, so they are called fleshy fruit. Like you see papaya. Okay, you see papaya, then you find papaya, many are there, like even tomato is a fruit. Remember, even tomato is a fruit. So they are all fleshy fruits. Okay, ripened ovary whose wall is fleshy. All right. Then sometimes we come across the word called dry fruits. We say dry fruits. Then maybe when we want to purchase like almond, when we want to purchase like peanut. Okay, so when we want to purchase almond, then other types of seeds we say. Okay, we call it dry fruits. That's not dry fruits actually. They are all fleshy, but when they are dried, like raisins, even raisins in Nepali we call it kismis. Okay, raisin. So they are all fleshy fruits in fact, but when they are dried, okay, then we call it dry fruits. But literally, it is not dry fruits; it is dried fruits. Okay, like almond, like raisins. They are all dried fruit. D-R-I. They are all D-R-I-E-D. Dried fruits, not dry fruits. All right. So these are the types of fruits, and we come across in your syllabus. There is another word called pulse fruit, like pulse fruit. Some another word is there which is called pulse fruit. What is pulse fruit? What is pulse fruit? So those fruits which are not originated from the ovary, which are not developed from the ovary. They are developed from the base of the flower. Suppose this is the flower. Suppose this is the flower here. Okay. So when the flower is developed from here, from the base, from this thalamus, when the fruit is developed from this thalamus or from the base of the flower, and in whose, what happens that, the ovary is found inside the fruit. Ovary is found inside the fruit, like in the case of apple, like in the case of pear. Okay, so these kinds of fruits are called, pulse fruits. Those fruits which are not developed from the ovary, they are developed from the base of the flower. And in them we find the ovary in the central part of the fruit, in the center. Okay, it's in the small form in the center of the fruit when the ovary is there. Such kinds of fruits are called pulse fruits. Okay, they are called pulse fruits. Okay, so that's all about the fruits now. So then at the end, now we have another subtopic we go through is dispersal of seeds. Dispersal of seeds now. Dispersal of seeds. You see? Dispersal of seeds. So, what happens is that, just remember, if one of the trees you just consider, let us say mango tree, okay? It has produced number of flowers there, and thousands of fruits are born there, are produced there. Okay, and if all the fruits are fallen up there itself, and they germinate there itself and grow into the seedlings, and all the 1,000 seedlings are grown there itself, then what will happen? What will happen then? These seedlings, these new plants will not be growing healthy. Why? Because they are all growing together in a small place where there is a lot of problem. You see, there may be the scarcity of water, there may be the scarcity of nutrients, there may be the scarcity of space, there may be the scarcity of sunlight. So consequently what happens that all the seedlings, all the small plants will be very weak. Okay, they will not be productive. So that what happens is that nature has provided them with the capacity to get scattered to the different places by means of the wind, by means of the animals, by means of water also, by means of human beings. So this taking away of the seeds, taking away of the fruits from its original place to the distant places is called dispersal of seeds. Okay, dispersal of seeds. Very simple. Okay, dispersal of seeds. So that what happens that those dispersed seeds when are grown into a new plant will be healthy enough because they can get a lot of water there, they can get a lot of nutrients there, they get a lot of space there. Consequently, what happens that those seeds which are dispersed far away by means of wind, by means of water, by means of insect, by means of animals, whatever let's say, okay, will be very healthy enough and productive. So this process of carrying away of those seeds or the fruits from its parental place to the distant places is called dispersal of seeds, which is very important. Alright, then you see there is a question in your book. You see, why do the plants not bear the seeds alone? Why do the plants bear the seeds always inside the fruit? There is a question. Why do the plants bear the seeds always inside the fruit? Why it doesn't contain the seeds alone? In majority of there are some of the cases like where you see the cones and all, where the cone itself get discarded from the new plants come up. But in general you see the seeds are within the fruits. Why? There are two reasons given. Number one, what happens is that fruits provide a protection to the seeds. Seeds are inside the fruits, so that seeds are so fragile, in fact, so young. So these seeds are protected by means of the fruit. Number one is protection, for the reason of protection. Second one, when the fruits are seen by the insects, by animals, okay, what happens that insects or animals get tempted of eating it. Okay, animals or human beings, you see, when you see a ripened,